Like several others in the Magic the Gathering community, I've decided to try my hand at the format's Tiny Leaders. And what not better commander than Anafenza the Foremost. Not only is she a large body for 3 mana, but whenever she attacks, she puts a +1/+1 counter on another tapped creature that you control. And also, whenever a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you exile that card instead. So, let's start off with the lands. I run about 21 lands. A couple of the lands are scattered throughout the deck here, so we'll only get through a majority of them at this first section here. So we'll start off with the basics. So we have a plains, a swamp, and we have 2 forests, because green is the most important color to us in this deck. Next up, we have the 3 fetch lands that fetch our colors. So we have Marsh Flats, a Windswept Heath, and a Verdant Catacombs. Next, we have the 3 shock lands for our colors. So we have Temple Garden, Overgrown Tomb, and Godless Shrine. And then we run 1 Lonely Savannah in case we don't feel like taking 2 life to tap for a white or green. Reflecting Pool taps for pretty much any of the colors that we need, depending on what kind of lands we have out. Command Tower, just really great, taps for any color that we need in our commander's identity. So it's kind of like a tri-land that doesn't come into play tapped. Next up, we have 3 lands that will be seeing a lot of graveyard. So we have Secluded Steppe for the cycling, Barren Moor for the cycling, and Riftstone Portal. Riftstone Portal is better when it's in the graveyard as opposed to being in our hand or on the battlefield. So this is typically a card we never want to be in play. We want it to be in the yard 24/7. Next up, we have our tutor package. So we have for our Worldly Tutor to grab a creature card that we need, put it on top of our deck at the end of our opponent's turn. Eladamri's Call. Search your library for a creature card, put it into your hand. I like it better than Worldly Tutor because it doesn't put the creature on top of your deck, so it puts in your hand immediately. You're not going to draw it the next turn, so you can draw something else, which is really great. Enlightened Tutor, search your library for an artifact or enchantment, reveal it to your opponent, and put it on top of your library. Really great, because artifacts and enchantments are a big deal in this kind of deck. Expedition Map allows us to tutor for any sort of land that we need, which is really great because we have a lot of utility lands in this deck. Crop Rotation, sacrifice a land to get a land. If we have Riftstone Portal, then this really becomes, hey, let's take care of the Riftstone Portal and let's get something better, like a Maze of Ith. And all of a sudden our Maze of Ith, not only does it untap a target attacking creature, but it also will now tap for green or white. Sylvan Scrying. Search our library for a land card. It's really powerful. Realms Uncharted, an all-star in my lands EDH deck. Because we get to search our library for 4 land cards with different names, so odds are we'll be hitting a Falrath Stronghold, a Thespian Stage, a Dark Depths, and maybe a Maze of Ith, and then following up a Vesuva, in case we already have one of those lands in our hand. Opponent chooses 2, but hey, you get two of the lands that you want. So, Knight of the Reliquary, this is our last land tutor. It also grows bigger with each land in the graveyard. It's really, really powerful. I've had games where this guy has become basically a 5/5 on turn, the turn it comes out, so it's pretty sweet. It can protect itself from a lightning bolt, or, a Wild Slash, or some other cards like that. Entomb will typically hit our lands. Most importantly, it will hit the Riftstone Portal early game, as long as the Riftstone Portal is not in our hand. So, really powerful. We have a few protection cards here. So we have Path to exile a creature. It gives them an extra land, but that's the price we have to pay to kind of get rid of their, commander if they're really based off their commander, or and opposing Dark Deaths. I don't know, Merit Lodge token. I don't know if I'm saying it right. A lot of people have been telling me that I've been saying it wrong for like 5 years. But oh well. Source of Plowshare. If this hits the Merit Lodge token, really, that's not what you want to do with this. You don't want to Swords to Plowshare a 20/20. It's just, no. I mean, it saves you from taking 20 damage, but it puts your opponent 20 life ahead. So it'll typically hit their commanders or their problematic creatures. Unexpectedly Absent, really great. Will usually hit their artifacts or enchantments that are helping them kind of get ahead in the game. So this kind of really screws them up. Puts the non-land permanent back on top of their library, and you can kind of say, oh, you're going to get this in 3 turns, or 2 turns, or 1 turn. I don't know. This is whatever. It's good. Ghostly Prison. Tax your opponents if they're running tokens. Pay 2 mana for each attacking creature. It's really powerful. It's actually more of a sideboard card, because there are some times where you'll be running against decks that have, 6 creatures. So it'll probably become a sideboard card later on. Then we have Vesuva and Maze of Ith for our protection package here. Vesuva will typically copy Maze of Ith, because Maze of Ith is just like, hey, you have a very nice attacking creature. It'd be a shame if I untapped that creature and it didn't do any damage. So, yeah, pretty good. Pernicious Deed, board wipe here, only if I'm really desperate, or if somebody's running a bunch of tokens, I can sack it for 0, hit all the tokens. Here we have a little bit of the accelerators. So we have Mox Diamond for basically 0 mana at the price of discarding a land. You get a mana rock that taps for any color. Expiration allows us to play an extra land per turn. Azusa, Lost But Seeking. She is really great, a really powerful card. Allows us to play 2 additional lands per turn. Next up, we have some of the cards that help us kind of get through our deck pretty quickly. So we have Commune with the Gods. Reveal the top 5 cards, put a creature and enchantment among them into your hand, and put the rest in the graveyard. The put the rest in the graveyard is really crucial, so if we draw a bunch of lands and we draw maybe a creature or an enchantment, we'll just hit the enchantment and then, we're totally fine with getting our lands in graveyard because we have a lot of ways to recur them. Mulch, basically the same thing, but it only gets 4 cards and you put all lands into your hand. So, putting lands in your hand or in the graveyard, it's not a big deal. So, either way works. Dark Confidant is pretty much a staple in any sort of deck, Tiny Leader's deck that's running black. At worst, you're going to ping yourself for 3 damage. At best, you're going to ping yourself for 0 damage. Phyrexian Arena, this is kind of... I like this card. It does put you on a clock because you do lose 1 life each turn, but you get a card. So card advantage is always good, even if it's draining your life slowly. Miri's Guile is here for top deck manipulation for the Dark Confidant. Sensei's Divining top deck manipulation, and also I do love the fact that when you tap it, you draw a card, and if Life from the Loan's in your graveyard, instead of drawing the card, you put the top 3 cards from your deck into your graveyard, and then you put the top on top of your library. It's pretty great. Sylvan Library. I put this under top deck manipulation because you do draw 2 additional cards, and sometimes you'll take 4 damage to get an extra card, or maybe 8 to get the extra 2. But most of the time, you're just going to be like, oh, I like this 1 card that I drew, so I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to put these other 2 on top. And if you have Dark Confidant out, then you can put 2, maybe a land that you drew back on top, so you can get an extra card. Here's a little bit of the Grave Recursion package. So we have a Volrath Stronghold, really, really powerful card, because our creatures are very important in this deck. We run very few, but the few that we run are very helpful. Life from the Loam. We return up to 3 target land cards 3 of any land from our graveyard to our hand, and the Dredge 3 is not bad at all. Crucible of Worlds allows us to play the lands that we've pitched to our graveyard, or sacrificed, or whatever. Eternal Witness allows us to get a card back that we've accidentally dredged or whatnot. Here are our win conditions here. So, first up, we have the Thespian Stage Dark Depths combo. A lot of EDH decks, well, I've run against in the past, tend to run these, and from the few Tiny Leader decks I've seen, they tend to run this combo as well. It's very good. It's like getting a 2020 Flying Indestructible for the price of 2 lands is good. Last but not least, we have Monastery Mentor. Makes a lot